You open your banking app and stare at the number like it's supposed to explain everything. Your paycheck hit, and somehow you still feel broke. You close the app, you open a shopping cart. The total looks like a typo, but it's not. Hey, I'm slow. Subscribe for Money Frameworks video every week. You keep hearing the same headlines. Growth is back. Markets are up. Inflation is cooling. And you're like, cool. So why does your life cost more? You do the responsible things. You bring lunch sometimes. You skip a few wants. You tell yourself you're being good. And then a random expense shows up like it lives in your house. Insurance goes up. Rent goes up. A repair goes up. A fee shows up for the privilege of paying a bill. It's not one big disaster. It's 1,000 tiny leaks. Quiet. Repetitive. Draining. You buy groceries and the bag feels lighter. Not emotionally. Physically. Same price. Less food. It's like the supermarket learned magic. Bad magic. You look at a menu and realize you're doing mental math like you're taking an exam. Not because you're cheap, because your brain is tired of being surprised. You try to budget, and it works for 3 days. Then life happens. Then you feel that little sting. Not panic. Something worse. Confusion. Because you're not reckless. You're not lazy. You're not out here buying yachts and lighting them on fire. You're just trying to live a normal week. And that's what makes it so maddening. You can't point to one mistake. There's no villain with a mustache. Just you, doing your best. And somehow losing ground anyway. So you start negotiating with yourself. I'll fix it next month. After this busy week. When things calm down. When I have more time. When tomorrow finally becomes today. And tomorrow just keeps rescheduling. Here's what it feels like. You work, you earn, you pay, you repeat. And the finish line moves like it's paid to avoid you. You watch people online talk about winning. They're flipping houses. They're buying stocks. They're leveraging. And you're just trying to keep your checking account from doing that thing where it hits zero and pretends it's normal. You don't feel poor in one dramatic moment. You feel poorer in slow motion, one tiny compromise at a time. You stop replacing things. You start tolerating things. You keep using the old shoes. You keep the old phone. You let the haircut slide. Not because you don't care, because you're prioritizing survival without calling it that. And the weirdest part is the guilt. That quiet, late-night guilt. Because you'll catch yourself thinking, other people are fine. So why can't I make this work? Look, you're not broken. You're just living inside a system that's very good at making fine feel like failure. The invisible villain isn't you. It's comfort that keeps you numb, distraction that keeps you busy, routine that keeps you automatic, delay that keeps you hopeful in the wrong direction, that soft voice that says, "Don't worry, you'll deal with it later." Later is expensive. Later charges interest. And in 2026, the way money moves makes this feeling almost predictable. Because the economy can grow while you feel poorer. That's not a paradox. That's a mechanism. Economic growth is a big average number. It can go up because a few sectors are booming, because profits rise, because productivity rises, because asset prices rise, because money moved somewhere. Just not into your day-to-day life. GDP can grow while your rent still climbs. GDP can grow while your groceries stay brutal. GDP can grow while your paycheck grows, slower. And the part nobody says out loud is this. You don't live inside the average. You live inside your monthly bills. Your personal economy is not the economy on TV. It's the economy of housing, food, transport, energy, childcare, healthcare, insurance. And those are the categories that don't care about your motivation. They don't respond to your pep talk. They don't give a discount because you tried. And when prices rise, they don't rise evenly. Some things get cheaper, sure. Screens, gadgets, stuff you can delay, stuff you can shop around for. But the expensive stuff, the stuff you need, the stuff you can't negotiate with, that's the stuff that keeps climbing. If you want to understand why you feel poorer, start here. The costs that matter most to your life are the costs you have the least power over. Housing doesn't ask for your opinion. Insurance sends an email and calls it a new rate. Utilities just happen. And food has learned to reinvent itself without changing the label. This is where people get stuck. Because they keep asking, why isn't my money going farther? When the real question is, why is the world charging more for the parts of life I can't escape? And then there's the second layer, the one that really messes with your head. Even when inflation slows down, prices don't go back. They just climb more slowly. That's why cooling can still feel like burning. It's like walking up a hill that used to be steep. Now it's slightly less steep. You're still walking up a hill. So you hear inflation is down and you think relief is coming. But your cart doesn't care. Your landlord doesn't care. Your bank doesn't care. And the third layer is the one that's easiest to miss. Interest. When interest costs go up, you don't just pay more. Everything built on borrowing starts acting different. Landlords raise rents because their costs rise. Consumers lean on credit because paychecks lag. And then the credit charges you for being human. Credit is patient. It doesn't yell, it just waits. And then it takes. Good news, you can earn more money. Bad news, your interest rate earns more money than you do. And then there's the quiet tax you never budgeted for. The subscription economy. It's not even malicious, it's just efficient. One small charge, another small charge, another small charge. This fee is small. That's why it wins. You don't feel the pain at the moment you click Start Free Trial. You feel it months later when you're paying for 5 things you don't even open anymore. But you keep them because canceling feels like work, and work feels like friction. And friction is the one thing comfort trains you to avoid. Comfort doesn't ruin you in a single bad decision. It ruins you by making you allergic to small, necessary pain. And on top of that, wages. Wages can rise and still lose because the timing matters. Prices move fast, pay moves slow. Your boss doesn't update your salary every time eggs decide to reinvent themselves. So you can technically be earning more in 2026 and still feel poorer. Because you're not measuring money, you're measuring purchasing power. You're measuring options. You're measuring breathing room. Breathing room is the real currency, and it's the first thing to get squeezed. Now add one more uncomfortable truth. A lot of the growth people celebrate isn't built to make your life cheaper. It's built to make someone else's balance sheet bigger. Companies get better at pricing, better at bundling, better at charging for convenience, better at selling you time savings while taking your money. And you buy it because you're tired, because you're busy, because you're carrying a whole life. That's not a moral failure. That's a design problem. The modern economy is very good at turning your exhaustion into revenue. It's so good that it can make you feel like it's your fault. So you try harder, you hustle harder, you optimize harder, you push harder, and you get a little more money. And then the world gets a little more expensive, and you end up in the same place, just with less energy. That's the loop. Work, spend, recover, repeat. And the enemy isn't a person, it's later. It's I'll deal with it when. It's I deserve this because today was hard. It's routine that keeps you moving without thinking. It's distraction that keeps you from noticing your own life. You don't need more information, you already know the obvious stuff. What you need is control. Not control over the whole economy, control over you. But here's the truth.
The reason this feels impossible isn't because you don't want it badly enough. It's because you've been trained to see money as a motivation problem. Like if you just wanted it more, you'd save more. Like if you just tried harder, you'd stop leaking money. Like discipline is a mood. It's not. Money is not a motivation problem. It's an identity problem. Because motivation is temporary. It's a spark. And the system you live in is built like a rainstorm. If your money decisions depend on how you feel, you will lose. Not because you're weak, because you're human. And here's where everything changes. The goal isn't to become a different person overnight. The goal is to stop being the person who negotiates with tomorrow. Because tomorrow is not a plan. Tomorrow is a hiding place. There's a version of you that keeps saying, once I earn more, then I'll get serious. And there's a quieter version of you that knows the real line is, once I get serious, I'll have more. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. Because discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. Discipline is you deciding that your future gets a vote today, not someday, today. It's you refusing to let comfort make financial decisions on your behalf. It's you being able to feel an impulse and not obey it. That's power. Look, you don't need to become obsessed with money. You need to stop letting money become an emergency. There's a difference. When money is an emergency, you panic, you react, you buy relief, you pay for convenience, you pay for emotional quiet. And then you wake up later and realize you purchased peace on a payment plan. Discipline is freedom because it creates space. Space is what the system keeps stealing. Space is what lets you breathe. Space is what lets you choose. Without space, you live on rails. Your paycheck arrives pre-spent. Your calendar arrives pre-exhausted. Your attention arrives pre-sold. And the real flex in 2026 isn't being rich, it's being unbuyable. Being unbuyable doesn't mean you never spend. It means you don't get played by your own impulses. It means you don't trade your long-term life for short-term comfort without noticing. Because that's the sneaky part. The economy doesn't need you to be stupid. It just needs you to be tired. Tired people don't renegotiate. Tired people don't cancel subscriptions. Tired people don't review statements. Tired people don't question routines. Tired people say yes to small charges because it's easier to think. And thinking is work. So the question becomes very simple. Not easy. Simple. Who is driving your financial life? You? Or the version of you that just wants today to be less annoying? Because the system will always offer you a deal. Pay a little now, worry later. Buy the convenience, ignore the cost. Take the easy route, forget the interest. And it's not dramatic, that's why it works. It's a swipe, a tap, a sure, a why not, I deserve it.
I'll fix it later. You don't need fear, you need honesty. If you feel poorer in 2026 while the economy grows, you're noticing something real. You're noticing that growth can happen above your head. You're noticing that averages can rise while your essentials rise faster. You're noticing that money flows through systems before it ever reaches you. You're noticing that convenience has a price tag attached to your future. That awareness is not depressing. It's powerful. Because once you can name the mechanism, you stop blaming your character. And when you stop blaming your character, you stop living in shame. And when you stop living in shame, you stop hiding. And when you stop hiding, you can finally choose. You can keep living in the loop. Work, spend, recover, repeat. Telling yourself the next month will be different. Or you can become the person who doesn't wait for later to get expensive. Not loud, not flashy, just consistent. Because the truth is, the economy doesn't care how you feel, but you do. Your future does. So here's the quiet challenge. The next time you feel that familiar urge to delay, to scroll, to buy, to ignore, to tell yourself tomorrow. What if you didn't obey it? Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you're done being controlled. In 2026, money rewards the person who can sit with discomfort without running. It rewards the person who can say no without needing a dramatic reason. It rewards the person who treats freedom like a priority, not a dream.
So, which version of you is going to be in charge this week? The one that wants relief right now, or the one that wants a life that finally feels like it's yours?